Welcome. Today we're tackling a really big one, a book that sparks intense debate, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. We wanted to start with this question for you. What if the most brilliant minds, the innovators, the people driving society forward,
Yeah.
what if they just vanished? What would actually be left? That's the core idea, really, behind this huge work.
Exactly. And today we're not just, summarizing the plot. That's been done. Our mission here is to really break down how Rand built her arguments, these incredibly powerful and often, let's face it, controversial points. We want to uncover the rhetorical toolkit she used, the things that make this book so impactful and, well, so divisive.
Right. And as we get into this pretty demanding material, just remember, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis. So let's start with Rand herself. Step into her world a bit.
Absolutely. So Ayn Rand, she was a Russian-American novelist, philosopher, and her background is key. It's not just trivia. It fundamentally fuels her philosophy, objectivism. Objectivism is built on, well, absolute reason, fierce individualism, and pure, unregulated capitalism as the only moral system.
And this wasn't just academic for her, was it?
Not at all. Her critique of anything collectivist, her defense of free enterprise, it comes directly from her own pretty harrowing experiences growing up under Soviet communism.
Yeah.
That shapes everything.
You can feel that intensity, that personal stake in her writing. It's not detached philosophy. And the timing of the book. 1957, that wasn't accidental.
Definitely not. Peak Cold War era. Think about the anxieties back then. People were worried about the government's role, economic freedom, individual rights. All these big questions were in the air.
So Atlas Shrugged lands right in the middle of that.
Precisely. It was Rand's direct response. She saw collectivism, regulation, this suppression of individual drive, not just in the Soviet Union, but creeping into the West, too. She was sounding an alarm about what she called creeping socialism.
So who is she trying to reach with this alarm bell? Who is her target audience?
Primarily, Americans already worried about these trends, intellectuals, people interested in philosophy, definitely defenders of free market capitalism, those who valued reason, self-reliance, freedom. She was speaking their language, validating their concerns.
But it feels like more than just speaking to the converted. There's a challenge in it too, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. It's deliberately provocative. It engages the critics, the skeptics. Her goal wasn't just entertainment. It was persuasion. Full stop. She wanted to champion objectivism, show the dangers of collectivism, elevate the individual mind, and really challenge the era's ideas about altruism, money, morality, shake the foundations.
And the absolute core, the central theme, is the mind, isn't it? Human reason is the engine of progress. And her big question, what happens when you undermine that engine?
Catastrophe. Pure and simple, in her view. And she shows this through these really stark, uncompromising contrasts, dichotomies, like self-interest versus self-sacrifice, or altruism, as she framed it. That's probably the most controversial one.
She presents them as totally incompatible forces, forcing you to choose a side.
Exactly. There's no middle ground. And then you have reason versus emotion, again, presented as opposites.
And the big one, producers versus parasites. The creators versus the looters, as she calls them.
Yeah, the heroes versus the villains, the innovators versus the regulators and bureaucrats. And underpinning it all is freedom versus regulation, her case for absolute individual liberty against government interference.
The tone she uses.
Yeah.
It's very direct. Sometimes feels almost like a lecture, maybe. Didactic.
Yeah, didactic is a good word for it. Subtlety isn't really the goal here. You get these really impassioned philosophical speeches, emotionally charged language designed to hit you hard. But then her heroes often speak with this kind of detached, forceful certainty.
So the tone shifts.
It does. There's urgency in the warnings, deep admiration for the heroes, and just outright condemnation for the looters. It's meant to provoke a strong reaction, push you off the fence.
Okay, let's unpack the how. How does she build these arguments so effectively? The rhetoric, ethos, pathos, logos. Let's start with ethos, her credibility.
Well, there's her personal story, the Soviet experience we mentioned, that gives her a certain authority on the dangers of collectivism. But within the book itself, her characters are the ethos. Dagny Taggart, Hank Rearden. They aren't just characters, they're presented as, paragons of competence, virtue, vision.
So they embody the philosophy.
Exactly. They become living arguments for objectivism. You see their integrity, their success, and you're led to trust the philosophy driving them. It establishes a moral authority within the narrative.
And pathos, the emotional appeal. She seems like a master at that.
Oh, absolutely. The imagery is powerful. Decaying cities, failing trains. These aren't just descriptions. They're visceral symbols of a society collapsing because the mind is being stifled.
You feel the decay.
Right. And the impassioned speeches, the high-stakes relationships, they definitely pull at your emotions. Think about Reardon's struggles, Dagny's determination. You feel anger at the injustice they face, sympathy for them, hope when they succeed, frustration at the compromises around them.
She makes you root for the individual against the system.
Precisely. And she elevates her heroes to almost mythical status, idealized virtue. This taps into, fear of loss, yearning for purpose. It makes the stakes feel personal, cosmic even.
So she gets you emotionally invested, builds credibility through her characters.
Yeah.
Then comes the logic, the logos.
Yes. And she uses reason rigorously, at least within her own framework. Galt's famous radio speech is the prime example. It's presented as this airtight logical progression.
Cause and effect.
Exactly. Regulation leads to decline. Rational productive effort leads to prosperity. It's laid out step by step. Galt's speech essentially argues, embrace altruism, devalue the individual, crush innovation, society collapses. It's a systematic defense of free markets and individualism, presented as logically inescapable.
Beyond those core appeals, her specific techniques are interesting too. Her language, for instance.
Yeah, the diction. It's often elevated, very precise, especially in the philosophical parts. Formal, abstract words like mind, reason, virtue.
But the story parts feel different.
Right. More straightforward prose there. The sentence structure changes too. Long, complex sentences for philosophy demanding you slow down and think. Then shorter, punchier sentences when the plot picks up speed, creating urgency. She really controls the reading experience that way.
In metaphors, the Atlas one is obviously central.
Hugely central. Atlas holding the world, then shrugging. It is the premise. The world collapsing when the thinkers withdraw. And she constantly uses analogies. Producers are prime movers, regulators are looters. It drills her worldview into you, defining the moral landscape.
Repetition seems key too. Who is John Galt? Echoes throughout.
It works on so many levels, right? Mystery, despair, eventually a rallying cry. And she uses parallelism constantly to contrast the heroes and villains, virtue and vice. This juxtaposition isn't just for drama. It's to make the philosophical lines incredibly sharp. No gray areas.
She even throws in things like allusions, right? To myths like Atlas, Prometheus.
Yeah, and references to current events, economic ideas of the time. Plus, there's a real biting irony sometimes, like when the supposedly selfless villains are clearly driven by envy or power lust.
And how does she keep the reader locked into these dense ideas?
Rhetorical questions, lots of them, especially in the big speeches. They directly challenge you, the reader. It pulls you into the argument, makes you engage, forces you to consider the questions as if they're your own. It's very effective at demanding reflection.
Speaking of carefully dissecting dense philosophical works, we're all about inspiring reflection and rational thinking here. That's why we want to remind you about our mindful moments on our YouTube channel, offering AI book analysis designed to help you engage even more deeply with these kinds of intellectually demanding ideas.
Okay, so pulling it all together, did Atlas Shrugged achieve what Rand set out to do?
Well, it definitely dramatizes her philosophy in a really powerful, provocative way, the way she weaves character, plot, and argument together. It lands hard, especially with her intended audience.
Those who already value reason, individualism, freedom.
Exactly. For them, it's incredibly validating, intellectually and emotionally. It provides a framework, a narrative for their beliefs.
But that effectiveness comes with a flip side, the controversy. It's not a book people tend to be lukewarm about.
Not at all. Critics often find the tone preachy, the characters may be too idealized, unrealistic. It can feel exclusionary if you don't already share some of her premises.
So it really polarizes people. Admiration or intense criticism. Absolutely. And while the arguments are consistent within objectivism's logic, a major critique is that the stark dichotomies oversimplify reality. Life isn't always black and white.
That risks, maybe logical fallacies by ignoring nuance.
That's the argument, yeah. Ignoring the messy middle ground of human experience.
And then there's the ethics. Her outright rejection of altruism is a huge sticking point for many.
A massive one. But you have to say, she's upfront about it. It's not hidden. It's central to her argument. She wants you to confront it directly.
And the context matters too, right? Praising self-interest so fiercely in the 1950s, that was bold. Still is, really.
Incredibly bold. And still contentious worldwide. I think real analysis means looking not just at how she persuaded her core audience, but also understanding the limits, the implications of those stark polarities she draws. Why does it work for some and completely repel others?
So wrapping this up for you, our listener, Atlas Shrugged is undeniably this rhetorically masterful, deeply divisive critique of collectivism. Rand pulls it off with a compelling story fused with relentless arguments for reason and the individual. Understanding how she does it, her rhetorical moves, really helps you appreciate the power and challenge of the book, regardless of whether you agree with her philosophy.
And if digging into how authors like Rand build their arguments is something you find compelling, remember to check out Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel. Plus, explore more discussions like this on our podcasts.
Here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about arguments you hear today. How often do they use similar tactics? Strong contrasts, black and white framing. Do they help clarify essential truths, or do they maybe oversimplify things? And what burdens are we as individuals really meant to carry? Or maybe meant to shrug off?
Keep thinking critically.
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Subscribe, share, and purchase via the link. Most importantly, keep thinking critically.